They marched 10 and 12 abreast. Gays dying of AIDS pushed themselves in wheelchairs to the wide expanse of the mall for the huge demonstration.
This is for us. This is for us to get together to remember that we are powerful and we are strong.
The only way that oppression against gay people will stop is if we come out of the closet.
Biggest gotta go!
And they say it will end if Congress passes civil rights legislation banning discrimination against homosexuals.
Gay people are exactly like everybody else, tall and short and young and old and black and white. And for society to differentiate gay people from straight people just doesn't make any sense.
The civil rights issue was overtaken at the rally by the AIDS crisis striking the gay community. Speaker after speaker called for more money and more research.
We must end the AIDS virus, the AIDS crisis, and stop death and give life a chance.
All the other health crises in the world, everybody rallied around. We're being ignored.
At dawn today, a quilt made by Americans across the country was unfurled. Each of the 2,000 panels bears the name of an AIDS victim. The silence spoke volumes about what brought the protesters here today. Jackie Judd, ABC News, Washington. At first light of day, a quilt, a dark reminder of AIDS and its victims, was unfurled, each panel representing a death.
Bruce, Richard, Taylor, Bill, White, Gaydon, Young.
This is a city of so many words that once in a while they hit home, and these weren't words. Every single one of these were people, our people.
The names and the memories of the dead were stitched into the fabric by friends and relatives of the famous and of the anonymous. Private agony today became a public, shared grief.
This is my memorial service for Don. Seeing it here mapped out, literally mapped out, as a map of grief, it's tremendously impressive. These were people who were loved, and that love is the most important thing.
Well, this is our inaugural display, and when this is done, we're going to be taking it back to San Francisco and strengthening it and cleaning it and continuing to build it. In fact, we anticipate that the quilt will double in size today with people bringing additions. And then in the spring, we're going to take it out on tour and visit 36 cities and use the quilt as a fundraising tool to raise money for those agencies that are providing direct services to people with AIDS. And we're particularly interested in supporting agencies that provide frontline services, housing, food banks, in-home support services, counseling programs, things like that, things that are of direct, immediate benefit to people with AIDS and their families and loved ones.
Cleve, I know this whole thing started basically as your idea several years ago. How are you feeling today, seeing it come to completion?
I'm overwhelmed. It has been such a privilege to work on this, and the people have been so extraordinary, so much love, so much hard work, and you know, in our workshop in San Francisco and here again today, there's so much pain and so much sorrow. And we're getting through it, and we're loving each other, and we're laughing, and we're continuing on with our lives. And I'm real proud to be here.
Okay. Tell me how the idea bloomed for this.
I got the idea on November 27th, 1985 at a demonstration in San Francisco. We were holding a memorial for Harvey Milk, a gay supervisor who was murdered. And it was the day that the Public Health Department announced that 1,000 San Franciscans had died of AIDS. And we asked everybody to carry a sign with the name of someone they knew who had died. And these were just plain white pieces of paper and cardboard with the names printed on them. When we got down to the Federal Building, we had ladders hidden in the shrubbery, and we scaled the side of the Federal Building and covered the whole front facade with these names. It was a very startling, very powerful image. And as I looked at it, I thought, well, we need a memorial, and it should be a quilt. And I just had the idea. I didn't do much with it for about a year. And then a year ago yesterday, my best friend died, and I had to do something. And the march was announced, and I decided that was the time to do it. So today we're unveiling the first portion of the quilt. It has 2,000 names in it. We've already received an additional 1,000 names that we didn't have time to sew in, and I suspect it'll probably double in size today as people from around the country bring us their quilt panels. It's going to continue to grow as long as the epidemic lasts. We're going to tour the country with it and use it to raise funds for people with AIDS and their families and loved ones.
And when people come by the quilt today, what do you want them to think about or to realize?
That these were people who were loved, and that love is the most important thing, and that if we love each other and work together, we can beat this disease.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. This is obviously an emotional memorial for you. What goes through your mind?
I don't want to have to come back and do this year after year. I want it to stop. That's why we're all here. We want it to stop. I don't want anyone else to have to go experience 11 deaths in 11 months.
You've known 11 people who've died?
I've known 11 people that die, and I know more that will.
And you?
I'm tired of going to funerals. I can't keep doing it, so this is for everybody. This is all of us, you know.
Did you both make panels?
No.
No, I didn't send one in. I don't sew.
Do you know people whose names are out there now?
Sure.
Who?
I know Nancy Sawaya, Barbara Cleaver's son. Barbara Cleaver was one of the readers.
She founded Mothers of AIDS patients in Los Angeles.
There's about 4 other names that I know.
Do you think people who haven't lost loved ones to AIDS are moved by this, care about this?
Caring people are. I hope so.
I think anybody who's ever lost someone in a senseless way, you know, whether it's a war or a disease or...
How can you not be touched? How can you not be touched by what's happening here? How can you not be touched by the mothers that read the names of their sons? Anyone can relate to that. Thank you.
Okay.
There's going to be a special thing, you know, plaque by the city council for voting. I'm from New York.
Did you come down this morning?
We came down last night.
Did you make a panel?
I did, yeah.
Can you tell me about it?
Well, my lover died about 3 years ago. He was sick for a few years. This was early days for AIDS. Of course, things have changed a tremendous amount now, but the trauma of AIDS was even worse then, if you can imagine it, because now there are therapies and treatments that are helpful. I feel that what we endured and what we had to go through at that time was horrendous. Amongst other things, of course, I was not invited to participate in the family memorial service. I was not included. In fact, I wasn't even informed as to when it was.
Was this your memorial service
This
for
is
him?
my memorial service for Don. So I made a panel. I Xeroxed articles of clothing, things that I had given him, things that he had given me, things that had value and meaning, things that represented his illness. I Xeroxed bottles of rubbing alcohol to symbolize all the times I had to give him alcohol rub-downs to bring his fever down. And I put them all under pieces of plastic and stitched them into place. And I felt that it was my recollection of all of the things that he was to me in our relationship, from when we met to, and from good times as well as from when he was sick, which was certainly, as he was sick for such a long period of time, it became part of our identity as a couple. And this is the only symbol I have of his passing.
Did you watch it being unfurled? Has it been
As it
unfurled?
happens, we just came here as they were announcing it and unfurling it, and I'm standing in front of it.
What went through your mind when you heard his name and saw the panel?
Well, as it happens, they got his first name wrong for some reason. It's right on the panel, but it was wrong when they read it. And I mean, I don't think I've ever forgotten that I'm not the only person suffering. Even during the funeral, even during his passage, I still was aware that I was not the only person suffering and felt very connected to bereaved all over the world, not just bereaved of AIDS, but bereaved in general. And I think that that's part of the process of dealing with death.
But at the moment when you saw the panel, when you heard the name, even though they had the wrong name, what were you thinking?
Truthfully, I was just a little bit stunned. And it wasn't until we found this area and I watched them unfurling it and I realized how much a part of a larger grief I really am, in fact. Seeing it here mapped out, literally mapped out, as a map of grief, it's tremendously impressive. And even though he died 3 years ago, I feel as though I'm only now beginning to be allowed to have that catharsis that anyone else in the world, in this society, would be allowed to have on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jerry Tubbs.
Dr.
Thomas Waddell.
It's this one right on the board. We'll be meeting at the Ellipse in the New York section. And
Terry. Paul. Tom, a biker.
You made this panel.
Sure did.
And for Liberace.
And for Liberace, both of them.
How is it you got involved and you were able to make the panel for these two very famous people?
Well, as soon as I heard about the Names Project, I called up to Cleve in San Francisco and told him I'd very much like to get involved and how could I help him best. And he said, we need a couple panels, some panels that are spectacular. Can you help us? I said, yeah. And I had chosen Liberace and Rock Hudson. It's two people I'd especially like to do. And so I went to work at it, and Rock Hudson especially because he had so much to do with media exposure, getting people aware of what had happened with AIDS. And actually Liberace, because there was a lot of denial, and still is about that, and I thought it was important he still be commemorated and realize how important it was.
Despite the denial? Despite
the denial. I wrote back on the back of Liberace's, and now heaven has more sparkle. And it still means a lot to us. His death reminds us all, and it makes everyone aware of how important it is to be aware of the problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you tell me your name and spell it?
Warren Caton, C-A-T-O-N.
C-A-T-O-N, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
2 hours late. If you ain't been through here, you'll have to wait 1 more minute. It's my day off, don't fuck with me.
Okay, can you talk for a minute to Good Morning America here?
Yeah.
We're right here. What made you want to come out today and support this?
What made me want to come out? I'm sick of seeing my friends die. It's a ridiculous idea that we can't get any federal money, or any more federal money. I'm tired of people shooting at little kids' parents, kids with AIDS. I'm sick of it. I want him to do something. I want someone to do something. And it's not on the American people, because the American people have done this. You know, this is the government we're talking to. You know, and you know, I mean, I wholeheartedly understand that there are gentlemen in the government who find some of the folks with AIDS lifestyle different from theirs, and I understand that because I've met a lot of people who are uncomfortable, and I understand and support that. But with children, it's not fair because you have no lifestyle to blame it on. So if you're not going to help the adults, then find a cure for the kids, you know. But that doesn't even, I mean, I'm sure Mr. Reagan has not sent a letter to the parents of those 3 little boys with AIDS in Florida saying, you know, this should not be happening in this country. I'm sorry, I'm supporting you. I'm sure he hasn't done that. I'm sure none of the congressmen or senators here have done that. And I want them to. I want them to make it easier for these children that fucking die. And you can't print that because I said the F word. But I want them to make them feel better, because all the folks around that you'll see with AIDS today, they're walking with dignity. They're giving to these kids a way to go. They've had full lives. But these little guys have only had 10 years, 8 years, 7 years. I don't understand why there's no help. And again, it isn't the American people. It's the government. And that's why I'm here.
How did you feel walking through there and seeing the names in the panels?
I felt like this was the best way to say goodbye to people instead of cold hard cement. This was a beautiful way, and I was just tired. You know, there's a lot of people I knew. I was just tired.
Would you consider making a panel for someone you know?
I am the panel. I'm a walking panel. You know, there's not a lot of time in my schedule to sew buttons on my own pants, you know, but I have a movable panel here, and this part also moves, you know, and as long as that moves, then I can get the information.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Sorry.
How you doing?